And we are live. I was a little worried there. A little spinny thing spun longer than normal. I was afraid we weren't going to actually go live, but here we are. The date, Tuesday, June the 24th, 2025, the episode 3693. Episode title today, Crit Before You Commit. Let AI call the bluff. If you're like, what is crit before you commit? Well, you're going to find out today, but this is going to be fun. Originally, I was going to dig into this 100% from the angle of dealing with car dealership service departments. But I thought about it more, and I'm going to make it a little bit more general, though I am going to tell you what I have done to a particular Toyota dealership a little bit more than I did yesterday, and some of the feedback that I got from GPT. And basically, my initial thought was I should really, stick the knife into these people and turn the handle and then maybe go up a little bit and sideways and back down and make a Z in the gut and then stab them in the face and make it about them. But it's not about them. You see, here's the thing. A very, very long time ago, I came up with an idea for a business and I gave it a joke name. And it was like one of those things like, hey, this could work if it was tweaked right, but I know I'm not going to do it. And it was called mypersonalasshole.com. Right now, it might sound a little bit funny, and that's why it wouldn't have been a good name. But the concept was like this: you're having something done, and you don't really know the space, the lingo. Like, you take your car in for a routine oil change, and next thing you know, you're getting a text message with 3 line items on it that says "needs attention today," and they're anywhere between $250 and $320, and they all sound really important, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to you. But you're not me. You're not an army mechanic. See, I'm an army mechanic, so when I get that text message, it's like, oh, I get to play now. This is fun, right? It's almost as bad as if they did it to Charles the Humble mechanic, who was a mechanic at a dealership. It's almost that bad. See, I was an army mechanic. I worked on big diesel trucks and stuff like that, but it's pretty hard to bullshit me about what work needs to be done on a car. But I started thinking about it. Why am I so mad at these people? Is because they tried to steal $1,000 from me that I need to spend? Actually, I know you would think that would make me pissed, but no, not at all. You know why? Because it's like shooting bullets at Superman. It doesn't work. Superman never got mad when somebody shot him. Superman got mad when somebody tried to shoot somebody else. See, and I get really mad when I see things like this because this is what I envision. I envision a woman with 2 children. She's got one in school. She needs to pick them up in like 2.5 hours. She's got the other one with her. She's sitting in the waiting room. She has nobody to drop off her vehicle and then come pick it up later. She's got to make a decision now. She's sitting in the waiting room and on her phone. The service writer doesn't even come out and talk to her. Boop, there it is. And because that's what they do now. They ask for approval and it says needs attention today, needs attention today. And because she really isn't sure she can afford it, she gets up, grabs her little kid and goes in there. And then some slick talking service writer explains how these are really recommended, really important to the life of her vehicle. And she's thinking, I had to take today off just to get my thing serviced. I don't have anybody to help me. I can't have my car break. So she says, yes, yes, and yes. And she doesn't have the money. So, of course, out comes the Amex or the MasterCard or whatever, and it goes into debt. And then 2 years later, she's still paying on this bill while they're doing this to her again. And guess what? It never needed to be done in the first place, and it doesn't need to be done again. Especially when this is a lease vehicle she's going to return at the end of a 24 or 36-month lease. And they're doing bullshit like you need to change your power steering fluid at 30,000 miles, which Humble Mechanic's brain probably just crawled out of his ears on both sides when he heard me say that because he knows how ridiculous that claim is. So it's not about me. No, I think the best thing that we can do with this little problem that we have here, because, and again, I don't want to make it about car dealerships. That's just one of the worst offenders. This includes people that come and you're going to get a bid to remodel your kitchen. This is, I want new siding on the house. When they start pulling the siding off, they say, oh, you need all this other work while we're here. It'll cost less for us to do it now than later. And sometimes you do. And sometimes you don't. And you don't know. It's your house. It's your car. If it's a dentist telling you something, it's your mouth. It's your kid's mouth. If it's a painter, maybe not that big of a deal, but you still just don't know. There's so many things that we do. Roofing work. Maybe the roof just needs to be patched in a few places. The whole thing doesn't need to be replaced. Maybe when they tell you don't file it on your insurance, you should be filing it on your insurance. And a dozen other things. So what My Personal Asshole was supposed to do is you get this thing and you go to mypersonalasshole.com, you fill out a form, and then somebody like Jack or my buddy David calls you and goes, hello, how may I help you? And then you give them all the information and they take all the information down and they say, I'll be right back with you. And then we get to do what we do. And let me tell you, people like me and David, we actually like to do this. This is fun for us. I've seen David do it too. He actually enjoys it more than me. So explain this to me. And then you let them run on their mouth and they don't know that you know what you know. So then you say, but I actually thought that, for instance, Toyota says that that's not part of the recommended maintenance at 30,000 miles. I mean, I could be crazy, but I'm sitting here looking at the maintenance schedule. Did you just lie to me? Right? And then let's say that they tried to rip you off for $1,000 and we got it to $0. That's $1,000 we saved you. You pay us $100 for the service. Now, part of the reason I never did that business is, one, it's a lot of work for a little bit of money. It's very hard to get your arms around. But two, I actually don't want any money from that person. I don't want any money from that person. I want that person not ripped off. So when I took what I knew and I plugged in the C.R.I.T formula that I'm going to give you today, and then I used it, I went from like, I'm going to go slaughter these people at Toyota to they're going to put a note on my file that says, never fuck with this guy ever again under any circumstances, period. Don't. There's going to be like when they pull my name up, when they pull my vehicle up, like a freaking klaxon's going to go off with flashing lights. It was merciless in the way they did, including like, you know, they're saying you need this, but it's not part of the maintenance schedule. Print out the maintenance schedule and take it in. Hey, make the maintenance schedule for me. There it is. Print. Hey, look, you lied. I want to create an army of people like this. I want to destroy this component of the service industry. I want to take this tool that, by the way, you know, if you're using like the advanced methods and stuff that I have because I pay for my access and I pay for like the second tier level access, it might be better. But even the free shit will do this really, really well, enough to handle this crap. I want to make this where these people are terrified, right? They're terrified to pull this shit because everybody has My Personal Asshole sitting in their back pocket. And I get the pun. I didn't intend it. Imagine you are a service writer at a car dealership, and all of a sudden, every third person you pull this shit with is coming in with a stack of paperwork like Jack does and saying, let's talk about all this, huh? So you said I need this, and it needs attention today. Would you define needs attention today for me? Because that would sound like if I don't do this, something really bad is going to happen to my car. I don't think something bad's going to happen to my car. It says right here in your own maintenance. You see how that works? That's what I want. I want this show to be a show that when you think, I want to share Jack's show with other people, but they're not into preparedness or gardening or permaculture or even entrepreneurship, you go, I got one for you. I got one for you that will pay dividends for you for the rest of your life if you listen to it. And if you want to skip them ahead to right after wherever the sponsor spot ends that we're about to do, and they just start there, it won't hurt my feelings. This is mission oriented for me. Let me tell you guys, I love doing this, empowering people to protect themselves, their families, and their budgets. We're sitting here worried about all kinds of like, are we getting ripped off on the price of avocados or something because of Trump's tariff? How about you're getting ripped off for shit you don't even need? How about you're being told things that aren't true? How about you don't know how to manage a multiple bid scenario for a project? You're like, these two are close in price, but which one of these? Like you can solve all this with a few commands and prompts I'm going to share with you today, and a methodology to make sure you get the most out of it. Before we do that, let's go ahead and hear from our sponsors of the day. Sponsor today, number one today, is one of my favorite sponsors. I love them all, but man, you got to love a sponsor who sends you meat candy in the mail twice a month. That's who Anton's Land of Biltong is for me at BiltongUSA.com. I get 2 packages of biltong and 2 packages of Drew Wurst sausage every other week from Anton as payment for his sponsor spot on the show, plus a little bit of money. It works out really well. I get money and I get meat. How much better could it be? You've got to try this stuff, guys. You've got to give it a shot. It's amazing. Anton is the real deal. He knows how to make biltong the right way. Most of the crap they call biltong is like, it's beef jerky with coriander on it. That does not make biltong. It doesn't. Biltong is cured, right? It is not dried out like a piece of jerky. They're different things, and they're both delicious, but biltong is superior. Check out Anton's Land of Biltong today, or biltongusa.com, and get yourself some of the best meat candy you'll ever eat. Next up today, water is one of the most important things in the world. Water literally is life. It's not hyperbole to say water is life. Go where there is no water, and there is no life. Even in a desert, it is only the water that they do get on occasion that brings life to a desert. If you go to a place with no surface water, no water below the ground, no water available to anyone, nothing but dead, like Mars, right? Because the water that is there is frozen solid. No life. Doesn't matter if it can live with CO2 atmosphere, no life. You got to have water. So we all use water. We use water in everything from our daily drinking water to like this glass of tea I've got right here, to making our coffee, to just drinking plain old water or whatever it is. And the problem is when you're drinking water, you don't know the quality of the water you're drinking, even if you think you do. My city, my county, whatever, does a good job taking care of things. Yeah, until they don't. That's why there's this thing called boil water advisories. Something gets into the water, something causes a problem. I'm not going to say they never. I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, when you get the boil water advisories, because somebody started to have problems, and then they figured out it was the water, and then they told you. It's usually not they figured out the mistake and immediately issued it, even if you get the notice. So you're often drinking water you shouldn't be for a period of time that you really shouldn't be, and it's too late. Now it's in you. Now maybe you're sick. Now maybe you're not feeling good. Maybe you're in the ER. Maybe you're the person that went to the ER because you got sick and you tipped them off when they figured out that it was the water that did it. How about getting it all to go away? And that's if it's city water. I'm on a well. Jack, you don't need a Berkey. You're on a well. You're drinking water 160 feet out of limestone. What could be wrong with it? All kinds of shit could get in there. And I get my water tested about once every 2 years. So I'm not going to know if something contaminates the well. So I use a Berkey, and I don't worry about it. Check them out today at usaberkeyfilters.com. That is the site of Jeff the Berkey Guy Gleason, the original and the one and only Berkey guy. With that, let's go ahead and get on into today's subject. So, yeah, I want to kind of come at this for you with a quick story about my personal experience at Toyota, and, to be blunt, the absolute bullshit that they pulled on, or I should say attempted to pull on me. So I go in, actually my wife goes in, and she drops off the truck for routine service at about 30,000 miles. It was like 29,000 and change. So we drop it off and we go, this is like Friday, so we call it fuck off Fridays. I take the day off on Fridays now, so we get whatever morning errands we need done, and then we usually go have lunch together because we can be alone at lunch. The kids are with the other grandparents and stuff like that. And, she gets this thing about all the stuff her car needs. And I look at it and it says she needs the brake fluid flushed and replaced. She needs the power steering fluid flushed and replaced. And she needs this E600 fuel injector cleaning. And all 3 of them are marked needs attention today. You see, it's a very interesting turn of phrase. It doesn't actually say anything bad will happen if you don't do it. It's more of a recommendation. That is at least their story when you push back on it. So I'm just like, she's like, well, what? I'm like, no, and no. And just, that was that for then. Well, we go in, we pick the vehicle up, and very soon after that, the service warning light comes on, and she tells them she wants it reset, and they tell her, no, that means something bad is wrong, and it needs attention. And of course, they had just sent this text message. Now, I don't think they intentionally triggered the warning light. I think it just was really close to 30,000, and that warning light is not a warning light. It's a reminder. It's you have hit it's a timer. It's a timer, but the timer doesn't work on time. It works on mileage. It's, hey, you hit 30,000 miles. If you haven't had your vehicle serviced, you should. So when you take it in, that should be reset. But they lied, and they said that means that some of this stuff is, it needs to be taken care of. So of course it isn't. So I go into GPT and I go through each one of these things, and I have this book and of things that we're going to sit down and have a meeting about. But I decided I don't need to waste any time with this, so they really don't know what's coming. They just know I'm pissed. This has gone on for so long that the vehicle will soon be ready for service again. And so when it's ready for service again, we're just not going to talk about it. We're just going to take it in and see if they pull this again. Then I'm going to go in with my book of shit, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to have the manager of the service department. We're going to have the service writer who's guilty of whatever it is, and we're going to have the tech that was working on it, and the salesman that I've bought 4 vehicles from in 12 years. All sit down at a table together, and we're going to have some fun. I want to teach you how to do that. Now, you might not be as confrontational as me, but at least you can find out if what you're being told is true. And again, this applies to somebody that says you need to do siding on your house, somebody that says you need a complete replacement of your roof, somebody that says your used car isn't worth what Kelly Blue Book says it's worth as a trade-in because insert bullshit reasons here. This applies to just about any time you're spending money with somebody that's more than a few bucks, and it's something that you don't necessarily know everything about, and it matters and it's important, at least as far as you're concerned at the moment. And this is where I'm going to bring in a formula by a gentleman named Jeff Woods. Now, Jeff wrote a book. It's called The AI-Driven Leader, and it's actually today's item of the day, and I'll talk about it more when we get there. And so this book was actually written for business leaders, and specifically like larger company business leaders. Anything from the small business with 50 employees up to the company like a General Electric with, millions of employees worldwide or what have you. But, this is for the CEO, the COO, the CTO, the chief people officer, the CMO, maybe director level people. That is the angle that it comes at. It's so much more than that. And one of the beautiful things in this book is the formula he came up with. And this guy has to be a pretty good marketer, honestly, because this is beautifully done. It's called the C.R.I.T, C-R-I-T formula. And with what I just gave you and the C.R.I.T formula put together, you can become an expert on any subject you need to in situations like this and completely dissect the situation. And let me explain something too about this. There's times when somebody comes and they tell you, like, this is going to cost you $4,000 to fix it, and you really need to spend the $4,000 to fix it, and they're being completely honest and the price is completely fair. You need to know that too. But there's also people that do that are like contractors that do work on your home. And then they find things in the middle of jobs that also need. And then they're like, hey, I think maybe this needs. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Even if they start out honest, it doesn't mean they remain honest. And at each point, somebody that told you it's a price says, I need more money from you. You need to check that too. So what is the C.R.I.T formula? It stands for context, role, interview, task. And it's very, very simple. It works like this. Context is you. You need to tell GPT what your situation is and what you know and what you do not know about the topic. I'm going to share it with you a way I use the same formula, and something has nothing to do with being ripped off later in the episode. It'll blow you away about how this formula can be used not only for what we're talking about today, but for so many things in life. And it's really important when you do this, okay, that you're honest about what you know and what you don't know. For instance, when I was working on the pushback for Toyota, because I like doing stuff like this and being an asshole, I told it, I'm a former Army mechanic. This is what I know. And I know that no vehicle needs this power. I already know this. And I know how to use the lingo, and I know how to communicate. I would have probably had a different type of response if I said, I don't know anything about cars at all. And you need to tell it what skill level you have. The example I'm going to give you in a bit is about cooking. And I have an awful lot of experience as like a gourmet advanced home cook and some advanced home cook equipment. If I didn't tell it that, it would have recommended certain things. So it kind of blow you away when you hear what it recommended. But it also wouldn't do me good to say I know a lot of shit when I don't. When I'm telling the thing, I want it to act like a top chef that owns multiple restaurants, all with multiple Michelin stars. Because now it's going to throw things at me I can't handle if I tell it I'm too advanced. The same thing with this bidding process or with service work or any of this stuff. You need to be honest about your base level, and that way it can explain things to you. And another thing you need to do, and I find this happens all the time, I'm seeing it sometimes in the course. Somebody will get an output, or it'll be something in the instructor guide that I give them or whatever, and it'll have a word they don't know. What does this word mean? You're literally using artificial intelligence right now. Ask AI what the word means. Don't ever be embarrassed about your ignorance when dealing with an AI unit. It's just a computer. So the context is as much, and like I said, I'm going to go through the context that I gave it for this this cooking output, because it'll help understand the depth of context in a different way. And I think the more analogies and different angles we explain things with, the more clear they become. Then you've got role. Role is what you're going to assign to GPT or to Gemini or to Claude, or it doesn't matter what you're using. This works on all of them. In other words, you tell it what it is. You are an expert at diagnosing vehicular problems. You have worked for Toyota for 20 years. In that capacity, you've been a salesman, you've been a service writer, you were the shop manager, and you have been a mechanic. You now no longer work for Toyota, and you're aware of all their practices, good and bad. Your role now is as a customer advocate for Toyota customers. Okay, you just took and 10x'd the quality of the response with a single prompt. Don't worry about writing that down unless you're in the exact same situation. It's the formula. And the more detail you give on the context and the role, how specialized you make the role, and how much you give of the context, the background story, what your problem is, what you know, what you don't know, and what problem you're trying to solve, along with that role. Then we move into the I in C.R.I.T, which is interview. Interview is very simple. Ask your AI unit to question you one question at a time to fully understand your case. And generally, you want to give it, depending on what you think you need, I would say 3 to 6 questions should be enough. But what I always do when I say, like, ask me 5 questions one at a time to better understand my needs in this situation, I always add, when you get to question 5, please pause and wait for further instructions. And I do that because if you don't, after the 5th question, verbal vomit comes out. Because often what will happen is during this conversation, and this is why the interview is so important, you don't know what you don't know, so let GPT or Claude or whoever do the work of pulling it out of you. Things will come up to you, and you're like, I should have said in 3rd question this and that. So make notes while you're doing this as you're waiting for your responses and reading them, and you might have further instructions at that point. And you might just think, I'm not sure you have enough questions. Ask me 2 more. Then you give it its task. And that is, once the info is clear, ask AI to tell you what to ask, what to push back on, to give you the information you need to take control of the situation. And again, if this is, you just got a quote from, Dodge or Ford or Chevy or Toyota or Mitsubishi, whoever, for a bunch of work you don't need, then this is about pushing back on something where somebody's trying to rip you off. And I hate to say that this happens a lot, but it happens a lot. And probably the place that it happens to the most people more often than any other place is with car service, because the average person is going to take their car in for routine service, assuming they drive a reasonable amount of mileage, 3 to 4 times a year. That's a lot of interfacing. And you have every company. I want to understand why they're doing what they're doing. Nothing they're going to do is going to hurt your vehicle. It's not necessarily bad that it was done. If you're Scrooge McDuck and you have money coming out your wazoo, maybe you would even do it. It's, does this actually benefit me in any real tangible way? And does it benefit me enough to part with $1,000, $1,200, whatever it is? Now, the reason they do this, though, is there's a lot of people that will walk in there and whatever they say to do, they'll just do it. And this is the same when you go into a dentist office. They'll tell you you need a filling you don't need. I'm serious. I dated a girl one time well before Dorothy, and she said, what dentist are you using? And I told her, and she said, this girl's a hygienist. So she went from dentist to dentist. She goes, don't use them. You won't have a real tooth left in your mouth by the time. They will always find another thing to do. You talk about, who do you trust more than a doctor that works in your mouth? Well, apparently you need to know about things like that too. This would apply, like I said, to things that you just want to learn more about so you can do them for yourself. This same formula works. But some real examples would be, how about HVAC? I mean, if you are in Texas and it's right now, and all of a sudden your AC unit ain't blowing really cold air anymore, and it's not unlivable yet, but you're worried that something's going to break, You call an HVAC company, don't be surprised if at least 50% of them on one visit will say, you need a complete new system. In fact, with some of the tax credits, incentives, and sales we're running right now, and all of a sudden your tech sounds a lot more like a salesman than a tech, because that's what they've been to be. Now, anything like that, I think you need to be in a multiple price bid war situation. You need to get two totally different companies, not associated in any way with each other, to give you bids, right? So that you can determine if they're, if they're drastically different, even if they both want a lot of money, something's up. Now you can use this role to figure something out. 229 mix says, or a $400 capacitor. There's also a lot of shit that, maybe you can't do it yourself, but there's a lot of things you can do yourself. Here's an example. Let's go back to Toyota. So also on this list of shit that needed to be done was the replacement of the air filters, which I can tell you they did not inspect physically. It just came up that at 30,000 miles, you do this. Needs attention today. Main air filter, $80. They're an air filter, needs attention today. Cabin air filter, $45. Now, never mind that I went and bought the two air filters for $40, both of them combined, right? And they are OEM equipment. They are specified for my vehicle. They're not like cheap Acme brand filters, like somebody taped a coffee filter on a frame and put it in a box. It took all of 30 seconds to do the main one and probably close to a minute to do the cabin one, because you have to take all the shit out of the glove box and then install and then put the cover back on and put the shit back in the glove box. And my wife keeps a lot of shit in her glove box. There was more. It took more time to take stuff, but this is, was about $125 for both of them versus $40 in 2 minutes. And I'm telling you, I don't care if you're a 65-year-old woman who doesn't know which end of a screwdriver to point at a screw. You could have watched a YouTube video and done this for yourself. So at least examine the possibility you can do it yourself. So a lot of times they'll have a thing, a part or a piece, and they'll say, well, that's $600. That's $800. Well, how much does that part actually cost? What are they charging you for labor? You might be asking a question like, well, you told me I need part XYZ, and I looked at it, and you're charging me $150 for the part, and you're charging me $100 for labor. Well, labor, since I don't want to do this, I don't have much trouble with, but I looked at this part, and I can buy it down the street for $50. How about this, man? How about I buy the part and you put it in? Or how about you charge me a fair price for it? Because the 3X markup from what I can just go buy it myself for, when I'm nobody and I don't buy in volume and you do, that seems like if I didn't know better, maybe you're taking advantage of me. See how simple that is? But you don't. The problem that most people have is when you get treated like this by a company, something's wrong, but you don't know what you don't know. And because of that, even when you push back, you lack confidence. And a well-trained service writer, salesman, whatever, will instantly, and the longer they've been doing it, the more this is true, they will instantly clue in on the fact this person's pushing back, but they really don't know where they're coming from on this. And so they'll waddle around and come back in. And they might say, you know what, we could take 10% off of that. That's the best I can do or whatever. But when you know that they're full of shit, and it becomes clear that that they're full of shit, you either get a good price or you go like this. You know what? I've determined based on this conversation so far that whoever does this work for me, it's not going to be you. Have a nice day. Goodbye. And I'm going to tell you, this is a place where you think women get taken advantage of because they know less than men about this stuff. It's not why. Men today, right, younger than me, significant, like 10 years younger than me and down, generally don't know jack diddly shit about a lot of this stuff. The average 25-year-old guy couldn't change a tire, let alone an air filter. You could teach them to do it in 5 minutes, but they don't know how, and they have no confidence in their ability how. But what they do have is a more willing nature, just an innate nature. I'm not saying women don't at all, and men do all the time. I'm saying if you go by the averages, men are more likely to go, bro, what is up here? Men are less susceptible to the guy going, well, I did something nice for you, so you should do something nice for me. No, I'm not here to pay your freaking bills, bro. I just want my car fixed. I want my air conditioner fixed, whatever. Men are much more confrontational in that situation. Women tend to be more submissive in that relationship, so they get abused more. And like I said, I've done this. I talked about this yesterday. I had warranty work that needed done on the Toyota. It's Dorothy's truck, so I always let her go first, partly because I want her to have the experience in case something happens to me. And the other part of it is because I like being me and I like doing what I do, and having her go in and saying, this is a problem, it needs correction, and having the service writer tell her first that it wasn't warranty work, and second that the warranty didn't apply to it, and then third that he wasn't sure the vehicle was still under warranty when the vehicle was 2 years old and had about 20,000 miles on it, both of which he knew because he just put it into his little pad. And then walking up to him, and as soon as he sees me walk up, he thinks I'm just some random dude, like in a hurry because you're not taking care of me. And he goes, I'll be right with you. And I'm like, oh no, that's fine. This is my wife. I just overheard you saying that this vehicle that's only 2 years old with 22,000 miles on it isn't covered by your 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty. Is that right? That doesn't sound right to me. And next thing you know, he looks like a 15-year-old kid at a high school dance trying to ask a girl to dance with nobody noticing when she says no. He's staring at the ground. He's moving his toe back and forth. He's looking off to the side, and he looks like somebody just caught him, doing something to himself in front of a computer or something. He has that look. Okay, if you don't have me, and if you're not confrontational, what you need is knowledge, because knowledge shuts it all down. That's what I'm talking about doing today. Another example, roofing bids. You get a roofing bid and like, well, you really need this material. Why? It comes with a 25-year warranty. My first question for you, if you tell me you're worried about a 25-year warranty on your roof, is how old are you? Because if you're 75, I don't think you need it. I'm not being morbid. I don't think you need it. You're not going to have to worry. It's not your problem. Unless, again, if you're Scrooge McDuck, you got money coming out your butthole. Okay, fine, whatever. But most of us don't, right? How long do you plan on living in this house? Well, we're just fixing it up, and probably in a couple of years we're going to sell it. You need the most basic roof because it's going to be new to the person buying it. But do you know that? Do you even think that way? I bet you if you tell that ChatGPT in the role that you have both been a residential and commercial roofer and a real estate agent and a home inspector, right? And you give it that role, and in the context you say, we plan on being in the home for another 3 to 5 years and then selling it, you're going to get different recommendations than if you say, we plan to live in this home for the rest of our lives and we're currently 45 years old, right? It's the role and the context combined, and then it pulls out the additional information with the interview. That would be the example of a roofing bid. What if you got 2 roofing bids? The price is similar, but the layout and how they explain the work is different, and you're not sure what it all means. You are a residential roofing specialist and a home inspector and a real estate agent. And you've also been a general contractor building homes. I'm currently evaluating these bids. And if they're in a format where they can be uploaded, upload them. Instead of doing all the lifting, ask me 5 questions one at a time to better understand my situation, and then give me recommendations as to what to do going forward. You decide this bid is what you're going to do. Like, okay, I'm going to use contractor A. You don't have the $22,000 that you've determined is a fair market price. Now you've gone out to 3 different companies to get financing on the work. Which contract is the best contract? Same scenario. You are now an expert in financing on home improvement. You see what I mean? And you start brand new chats for this. If you want to give it context of past discussions, cut and paste the previous chat, upload it as a PDF or a Word doc, and tell the AI unit, I'm giving you this for background information only, so you know the discussions I've had with you in the past on it. However, for the sake of this chat, context, role, interview, task. And the easy way to do it is literally go in there, type the word context, hold down the control or command or whatever works in your particular device, so you can hit return without sending the command. Put some spaces in, put role, do it again, interview, do it again, task, then go up and just start filling the blanks in. That's all you have to do. And like I said, tell it at the end of the interview before moving forward, pause to see if I have any further instructions before you execute your task. By the way, you should basically make a template for this, put it in a document and save it on your device. So you don't have to keep redoing the work. You just fill in the blanks. Really simple. Really, really simple. And give it as much context as you can. I'm going to help you with that in a bit. Kitchen remodels. We went through hell with a kitchen remodel. I would have been taken to the cleaners by the two different contractors that were involved. I had a general contractor doing the overall work, and I had a cabinet maker make custom cabinets that were then brought in and installed it was the only part he did was install the cabinetry, and the general contractor did everything else. Both of them tried to bonus. This is the list remodels 8 years ago, long before GPT and Gemini and Claude and all this stuff was available. I had to do this all with what I knew, but I've been through working with contractors my whole life. Part of my experience as a salesperson in the cabling industry is a different type of work, but it's dealing with contractors, the customer side, the company side, all of it. So I have the experience to handle all this BS. I'm telling you, if I had been gone and she had some insurance money and she was doing this work for herself, they would have took her, the cabinet maker, he would have just not done what he was supposed to do fully and fixed a problem. It literally would have been a money thing. The GC, this asshole would have stripped another 10 grand, and he probably would have never finished the work and been on, because he was one of these guys. I figured out along the way, what he's doing is he's funding this job with the next job, and he never quite has enough money to make things work. He was also working under the name of an LLC out of Arizona, which he hadn't paid any taxes on for about 10 years. So when it got near the end and dicey, he got an email explaining, or a text explaining to him that not only would I sue his ass in small claims court, not only would he not be able to represent himself because of the county restriction on that and the dollar amount, even though it was small claims, if you're a company, you have to retain an attorney. But it might be interesting to find out what would happen in a public case when it was disclosed that he wasn't paying taxes on his company's revenue. Now, I don't want to do anything like that to anybody, but I wanted my shit finished, and I didn't want to be asked for more money, and I wasn't going to damn well pay him any more money until he was finished and I was happy. But without me, or without something like a GPT, and you don't know how to handle that, you're going to get taken to the cleaners. And either you'll just end up paying more money, or you'll end up stuck with an unfinished job, or you'll end up with both, which happens to people all the time. You have to be tough in these negotiations. And again, some people just aren't naturally as friction oriented as I am. When I have to have a confrontation like this, I don't yell or scream or call the person names. I enjoy myself. I really like doing this. I like making people sweat. I like basically acting like I'm a prosecuting attorney and they're sitting on a witness stand. I enjoy that part of it. Most people are not that confrontational, and they don't. You have to be to a degree, or you will get taken for a ride in these situations. All of these things, again, roofing, kitchen remodels, HVAC, like all of these are places with a little bit of specialized knowledge in a high dollar market capable of misleading people into spending more money than they have to on things that they do not need. So I want to also talk a little bit about using this outside of what we're really talking about today, right? I want to talk about how you can take the same C.R.I.T formula that is designed for a CEO to determine a growth plan with non-obvious enhancements to revenue that will allow them to grow by 40% next year when their sector is set to decline by 10%. That's what it's for, okay? That's what it's for. That's what the formula was developed for. I had just adapted the formula to push back on a lying service writer or similar. And as I'm doing this, I was thinking about something else that Jeff Woods, who is the author of the book that has the formula in it, said in an interview with Robert Breedlove. What he said was, one of the best things that leaders can do right now is take a simple piece of yellow sticky note paper and write on it, how can AI help with this? and stick it on the corner of their computer so they stop forgetting that it's a tool they have available. Well, as many of you guys know, I just started really in-depth growing mushrooms at scale, and I'm going to be growing all these different kinds of mushrooms, lion's mane, chestnuts, all this stuff. But the thing that I can grow for free, basically, on coffee grinds and sawdust pellets, that I can make as much spawn as I want with over and over again, and literally start with nothing but some throwaway stuff and a mushroom stem. And 3 weeks later, a big, beautiful flush of mushrooms are oyster mushrooms. And I've always liked them, but I've never really gotten into cooking them. They were always like, what's available at the market? Oh, they have oysters. Blue oysters usually is the most common. I'll grab those. So the things that I can grow are like pink oysters, Italian oysters, blue oysters, and the two that I can grow that are kind of premium considered, Italian and blue. And I can do king oyster and a lot of these, again, shiitakes, all this other stuff. But those two in particular, Italian oyster, blue oyster, fast, easy, beautiful. But how many times are you going to saute mushrooms with butter and garlic with a bourbon reduction and a little splash of soy or fish sauce and serve it as a side before you go, can we not do something else here? So I thought about the C.R.I.T method. And I'm only going to read part of the PDF to you today. Just really the context, and then I'm going to read to you the results. But if you want the whole thing, you can get it. And it's not about how to cook, okay? It's about the formula that I used and the depth of detail that I gave it, including my capabilities without exaggerating them and stating the limits on what I wanted and didn't want. So let me pull that up on the screen for you. Again, this PDF's available. Don't worry, you don't have to read it if that's kind of small. I'm going to read it for you. And this is my transcript, just cut and paste right out of ChatGPT. But again, it could be Claude, it could be Gemini, it doesn't matter. You said, I want to talk about cooking oyster mushrooms, particularly Italian and blue oyster. I want beyond Googling standard recipes, etc. I grow my own mushrooms, and the two of these are varieties I can produce very fast and easy and for almost no money. I can do this year-round, so I want variety and upscale dishes. My skill set is that of a highly experienced advanced home cook. I am fully aware that I can't exactly duplicate the work of a top chef in a top restaurant. I do not have advanced equipment that you would have. A guy coming in at 0400 just to make stock for me, etc. Things I do have that are advanced as equipment compared to many home cooks: full-size laminate steel flat top, high-end gas stove, sous vide equipment, chamber vac so I can do fast wet marinades. I also own a commercial quality salamander broiler. Not all of these may be useful for the mushroom stuff. I'm just letting you know what I have. My knife skills are solid. My area has a lot of high-end markets, so there are not many ingredients I can't get easily. I also garden and have fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, etc. I grow my own ginger. Lots of varieties of mint, unique things like kakusa squash, trumbashino squash, Asian long beans, and other unique things. For the shrooms, I expect they will be sides, mainly for meat dishes. Our diet is low, but not no carb. We do indulge on carbs about once every 2 weeks, so we're open to a few things like that. I'd like some of these dishes to almost feel like the star, even sitting next to a steak, but they don't all have to be like that. So that's context. Now we're going to role. Your role. You are a top chef, having run and built multiple Michelin star restaurants. In fact, you are so good, you own several with multiple stars. You are to give me ideas for these mushrooms. Some maybe no one has even done the way you come up with before, not just to fetch other recipes online. You are trained in classic French cooking and traditional Asian cooking, along with South and Central American styles. You love cooking with unique things, are a rock star with fish and seafood. I want you to recommend things I can do to blow away my guests, yet stick to what an advanced home cook can do. No 4-day processes, foamed pea froth, or stuff like that. Ask me 5 questions one at a time, then give me a list of some ideas, 10 in fact, with at least 3 that you create yourself as experimental concepts from this interaction. To do this, draw on your unique culinary knowledge. Now, I'm not going to go any more in that chat with you I'm going to jump because I don't want to read the whole thing. Again, you can get it if you want it. I'm going to jump to the end. And you tell me if you had gone to GPT or Claude or anybody and said, I grow lots of oyster mushrooms. Please give me some recipes for them. If you think you would have gotten anything like this, and you tell me you don't want to go to the restaurant that has this on their special mushroom list of things that they do. Brown butter, sage, oyster mushrooms with roasted lemon crumbs. Style, elegant side. Italian oysters, crisp in brown butter with whole fried sage leaves. Finished with lemon zest infused sourdough crumbs, pan toasted in ghee or pork fat for texture and a bit of brightness. Served beside pork chops or bone-in chicken. Squeeze of the fire-roasted lemon on the plate beside completes it. Shiitake miso glazed blue oyster fans. Style, East Asian-inspired side or tapas. Fan blue oysters and roast at high heat until caramelized. Brush with a glaze of white miso tamari and reduced shiitake broth. Finish with sesame oil, sliced green garlic, and a touch of yuzu zest. If you can get it. Works great warm or room temp. Pairs with seafood or a sesame-crusted tuna. I'm not even going to read them all. I'm just going to read a few of these that I thought were really interesting. Let me. How about this one? Crispy oyster mushrooms with 5-spice maple glaze. Toss mushrooms in arrowroot and pan fry in animal fat or avocado oil until shattering crisp. Glaze lightly with maple syrup and Chinese 5-spice and tamari. Serve beside smoked brisket or chicken jerk sausage. See, they got that from me when he asked me questions about what I make that's unique. The chicken jerk sausage and the smoked brisket. Great flavor bridge. How about, here's some, let me read you the completely original creations that this chef came up with just for me. Mushroom tar caramel. Okay. Simmer soy, mirin, mushroom stock from your own cutoffs, and brown sugar to thick, almost caramel consistency. Fold in mushroom powder or black garlic for a finish. Use as a swipe on the plate with seared tuna, pork belly, or even charred sweet potato. It's sweet, salty, umami, and sticky. A little goes far. Crisp oyster mushroom bone marrow lettuce wraps. I sent this to Chef Ken last night. He's like, we got to make that, right? We got to make that at the workshop. I don't know if we can pull that off for 100 people, but we're going to do something, right? Roast marrow bones vertically. Scoop out marrow and mix with chopped crisp oyster mushrooms, chives, and crushed chili flake. Spoon into romaine or bib lettuce cups, topped with shaved radish and lemon zest. It's primal and refined. Sous vide oyster mushroom ribbons, ginger ponzu butter, precision side style. Slice mushrooms lengthwise into ribbons, bag with ginger ponzu cultured butter. Sous vide at 170 for 40 minutes. Flash and salamander to finish. Bright, supple, intensely aromatic, served with grilled fish or even cold soba on the side. Now you might be thinking, oh, those are great menu descriptions, but how do I make them? Let me know if you want prep, walkthrough substitutions, or a few sweet and salty options to pair with shellfish or lobster next. Okay, look, I don't care if you're using this to figure out what to cook. I don't care if you're using it to figure out how to equip your shop. I don't care if you're using it to figure out if you're getting ripped off by a service writer or an insurance adjuster. If you're not using this today, the person that you're dealing with, if they're not using it yet, will be. They will be in the future. And if you don't learn to do this, you're going to have problems. And I want to reinforce, your results are going to improve when you're honest about what you know and what you don't know. The more you're honest, the more AI can help you. The more it will base what it tells you to do on your current skill level, and the more information it will give you about coming up in skill level, the more it will be able to recommend the right resources for you to improve your learning. You can do the same thing here. Just imagine that you wanted to learn about anything. You want to learn more about skill XYZ. You can use this, give it the context of why you want to learn, what you already know, what made you interested in it, etc. Give it the role of an expert in that space, have it interview and task it with developing a personalized learning plan for you. Now do everything I just said, homeschoolers, and do that for your children. My daughter seems to have an amazing attraction to thing X. I want to build into her curriculum an additional custom rolled elective course. You are an you see what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you one thing about the book. If there's anything repetitive in it, that is what. Ask me 5 questions. Your task is 2, like over and over. But it's because it works. And because this is so far into our brains. When GPT, Claude, all of Gemini, when it all first came out, most of us initially treated it like a search engine, like a genie. Tell me the best way to cook a potato. Not you're a Michelin trained chef. I have this specific kind of potato. This is what my guests prefer. I need to prefer you see what I mean? The more you give it, and the more role you give it, the more role and context you give it, and allowing the interview process, the better it becomes. Before I heard this, I was 90% to this formula. I'd figured it out on my own. I was using every piece of this formula, just not together sequentially like this. And when I saw it, I'm like, boom. There it is. That's it all together. But what we have been doing as a species, as humans, with this new thing, this new AI thing, like fake intelligence. In fact, I really want to start calling it fake intelligence because fake and artificial mean the same thing. Let's stop. It's not the Terminator. It's not coming back to kill John and Sarah Connor. That's not what it is. It's not taking over the traffic system of CU, right? It is just a large language model, a predictive indicator, but with access to all the information that you could possibly have. And therefore, it can assemble that into a predictive result that is outside the box that you can't see outside of because you're in it, right? That's what it is. And it can be used this way. And only when you start using it this way will you really begin to understand the power that it offers you. And there's some reasons you need to be using it this way. Let's say you're like, I don't really care. My job is probably safe. I guess, maybe, I don't know. I'm not a leader in my company. I don't want to be a leader in my company. I want to come in at 8 and leave at 5. I mean, when my wife was working, that's exactly what she said. I'm like, because I'm kind of goal oriented. And I remember sitting down with her and going, well, what would it take for you to run the whole office? She goes, I don't want to do it. Okay. I'm like, well, how could you make more money? She says, but the only way would be to specialize in something or get my RN from my, go from LN to RN. And I'm like, well, do you want to do that? Because no, I don't want to I just want to go to work. I don't want to come home. I don't want to hear from anybody till Monday morning. And so you could be that person. Nothing wrong with that person. I love my wife. I don't hate you for being like my wife. But you don't know. This is how your freaking business, the people that own your business and run your business are going to use AI. This is how they're going to make determinations about whether your job stays or goes. Even if all you want is a job, you need to learn this precision method because if you don't, then you're going to get steamrolled by it, by the guy sitting in the cubicle next to you, who you've always been this much better than, just a little bit better than. So you always knew, I've been here a little longer. I'm a little bit better at what I do. I'm good. But he starts using this and you don't. Now you're not a little bit better. You're a lot worse. You have to do this. Again, I always put the caveats in. If you're 70 years old and you're retired and you're going to live for the rest of your life, you don't need money. No, you don't. If you're 25 years old and you're in a competitive job market right now, you have no idea. I just said on Facebook today, right before the show started, idea for John Pugliano. The Robots Are Here, a sequel to The Robots Are Coming. John, you better do it. It's too good of an idea not to. You'll probably sell more of the second book than the first one, right? Because the robots are here. This genie does not go back in the bottle. It cannot be undone. It will not go away. You can't get rid of it. And I'm telling you right now, you can make your life better using this tool. You have to start understanding it is a tool. And if today you're saying, I won't use AI to design a better life or a better job or a better career or a better business, you're a business in 1990 saying, I refuse to start using Microsoft Excel spreadsheets to manage our finances and do our cost analysis takeoffs. That's who you are. And you're going to compete with somebody that's going to. You're a company in 1995 saying, no, we're not putting in a network and an email server and having emails and doing all that. If our customers want to talk to us, they can call us on a phone or screw them. And your competitors are doing it. If you're trying to educate your children and you know that your children will eventually go out in the world and compete in whatever niche they decide to carve out for themselves, and you're not using this tool to design education for them and to help them through their own educational path and learn how to use it themselves, they're going to go compete with kids who somebody did that with, who are going to be light years ahead of them 10 years from now when they hit the market. This is like ignoring the internet in 1992 when the morons on the Today Show were going, what is that? What is that email thing? What is that @ thing? That symbol in there? What does that mean? What is www? And so many people are like, yeah, it doesn't matter. No one's already. It's a fad. It's the devil, right? That's what people say about AI. It's the devil. It's a freaking computer program, dude. Learn to use it, because if you don't, you're going to get murdered in more ways than one. And if nothing else, please realize that when it comes to decisions involving your money, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a former Army mechanic talking to a lying service writer at a Toyota shop. You have one in your pocket if you just follow this methodology. You have the ability, with the right questions, a little backup, and a simple formula, to be able to push back on anything and to be able to do the thing that you hope you get to do. Because this is what I hope I would get to do. If I had somebody coming at me with a quote for some business and somebody didn't feel right and I put it all in and I did all of this and it came out with basically, you might ask about this and this, but overall, this seems legit. I'd much rather that be the outcome. I'm not just doing this to save money. I'm doing this because I don't want to give people money who don't deserve money. You understand that? How important that is? I don't want to reward bad behavior. Why do they do this? Why do they do this? Why does Toyota, this is the largest Toyota dealership in Fort Worth. Overall, they're a very good dealership, very well maintained. Everybody's polite. You never wait for anything. They don't have salesmen that, follow you around, poking you in the back when all you said was, I just wanted to look at this truck. They don't do that. And this is a problem that has become more and more evident. In the very beginning, when I bought my first, why do you think I went back so many times? When I bought my first 4Runner from them, they never did this. They're doing it for two reasons. Everybody's being squeezed to make more profit, and it works. That's the second reason. They're doing it because it works. If every time they did this, they ran into a Jack Spirko, right? If every time you pulled some shit like this, the phone conversation you had next was with me, right? And for those on the video, this kind of hits harder, doesn't it? Do you want this? You don't want this. But that's not what happens. They get me 1 out of every 20 times. Somebody like me, worse than me, almost as bad as me, right? 1 out of 20 times. And, they might learn from that experience for like a day. But if you do, let's say you take this place is huge. This shop is massive. There's no reason to believe that they couldn't successfully get a yes to, let's say, $1,000 worth of unnecessary work on average. Somebody might be $300, somebody else might be $1,500. But in the end, 10 people, an average of $1,000 of unnecessary work, that's probably the low side of what's being done by this dealership right now. Yeah? Okay, that's $10,000 a day. They're open 6 days a week. That's $60,000 a week. That's almost $250,000 a month in additional revenue just by putting some things on a thing and sending somebody a text message that says, do you want to add this? Needs attention today. If it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. If they always got it shoved up their ass, they wouldn't do it. There's no reason for it to happen at all anymore. You can build custom GPTs. That sounds complicated. No, it's not. Literally, what does the piece of paper you're supposed to put on your computer say? Ask AI how can AI help me with this, right? Right? I would like to create a custom GPT to be an expert at evaluating service recommendations from dealerships. Please give me the prompts I need to do it and tell me what to do. And basically, it's click this, click that, cut and paste this in here, save it, and name it. And whenever you need to do something in that space, go grab that custom GPT and go to work with it. And still follow the C.R.I.T formula, but a lot of it will have been pre-done for you. The role will largely, the biggest thing you're going to give it is the role and the context of who you are and what you want. Just repeat it in summary, ask it to interview you about the situation, give it the facts about the current situation, and let it spill out. Hell, it's worth doing that if you have a big family and everybody drives new vehicles and they keep them serviced and you're the guy that they talk to about it. Make your life easier. Do it for your family. Teach your kids how to do it. So when they get a car, this shit can't be done to them. This is the reality. And Kevin Trimmer says people want to protest shit like this. Kevin, I agree. And I think we're in sync what you mean by like this. I think Kevin means not just the practices these people are, but this is how you protest. This is how you take control of the situation. Is it better that I use my social media presence and my social capital and say, hey, everybody, this Toyota dealership is fucking over single moms. Everybody, I'll bring my flat top down. We'll make some sausages and hamburgers and hot dogs. We're going to have a great big protest and hold up signs that say Toyota hates single moms and stand out in front of there. And everybody that comes in the parking lot, we're going to say, hey, let me just tell you what their service practices are, right? And we do that for a weekend, or we do that for a Saturday. Or does it make more impact to take this skill set, show how simple it is, and start teaching people how to do it, and teach them to teach other people how to do it, and teach them to teach other people how to do it, and create a network effect of you have a tool available that will prevent this abuse from happening to you. And if that doesn't get you off the fence, it will prevent it from happening to people you love and care about. What better form of protest is there than not to object to the practice, but logically and systematically eliminate the process through the use of applied knowledge? Protesting with signs is something that worked a little bit 70 years ago. Protesting with reinforced knowledge is a bulletproof form of protest that can work today. Not for all things, but for the things that most affect your wallet and your life. And as an added bonus, can make you an amazing cook or an amazing woodworker or whatever it is that you want to be. I like mushrooms. I like growing them. I want to keep it easy. I just heard from somebody on Facebook who's watching what I'm doing with mushrooms and going, man, you should see my daughter. She's the next Paul Stamets. She's got her laminar flow head. She's doing agar cultures. She knows all this stuff. Okay, then take her and have her create her own board of advisors for mushroom cultivation and building a mushroom company, and create a board of advisors, including Paul fucking Stamets, on her board of advisors. This is a 16-year-old girl that can have direct access to the knowledge and advice of Paul Stamets with a freaking app that costs $25 a month in her back pocket. And she's already way ahead of anybody that would be competing with her. And there's 1,000 people out there in that mushroom space. And most of them don't know anything about what I just told you, how to leverage that. So it's not just not getting screwed. It's not just building a business. It's not just keeping your job. It's not just building a learning program for yourself. It's not just empowering your children. It's not just protecting your mom. Because beautiful as it was, one of the things GPT put in my packet to talk to Toyota about, would you be comfortable telling your own mother that these 3 things that cost over $1,000 that are unnecessary need attention today? And how would you feel if someone else did that to your mom? Whoa. I read that and thought, I only thought I was a master asshole. That is a master asshole. And you can have your personal master asshole at your disposal when somebody's trying to screw you over. And you can have your personal master advisor and teacher available when you know what you want to learn. I invite you to journey through this for yourself and learn more. That leads me perfectly, though, in today's item of the day. Today's item of the day, you might imagine, is the book, The AI-Driven Leader by Jeff Woods. Now, again, I found Jeff on a podcast with Robert Breedlove, who I love, Matt Sursley in the AI course recommended the podcast. That led to this podcast. That led to this deep dive. That led to all of this. So what I'm saying there is if you're not on the advanced notification list for the next round of that AI course, you might want to get on there before we take it down, because we ain't taking it down yet. We just don't talk about it anymore. Okay, because there's already 500 people on a waiting list, and next round is going to be another 100 students. I've gotten as much out of teaching that course as probably students do from learning, and some of it is this exchange of resources, and we're building basically an army of people that are entrepreneurs that know how to use this tool. So I just want to give credit to Matt Sursley for pointing this out. Anyway, the AI-driven leader, I'm doing the audiobook version of it because it fits my active life, and I'm good at multitasking, and when I'm doing things like feeding the birds in the morning or getting bit by the duck who's having baby ducks. And when I'm checking for the baby ducks, she bit the shit out of me, or working on the mushrooms or cooking something, I can listen to the book. But you can get it in hardcover or Kindle. It is totally worth getting. If you want to learn from the guy that created the formula I talked about today, Jeff Woods is the man. This book is absolutely worth the money. In the write-up that I did on it today, I said, I'm only 25% through the book and I'm recommending it. That's not what I usually do. That's not how things usually come for me. It was kind of serendipitous that I came up with this episode. The shit happened with Toyota. Then last night, the thing happened with the chef stuff. And I'm like, I have to do this. But the reason I'll recommend the book is because I already know who the guy is. I've listened to his podcast with Robert. It was exceptional. I've read some of his articles. And I'm 25% through the book. And if the book now said, this has been a production by Audible, I wouldn't complain. 25%, I already got my money back like 5 times over in this book. So I highly recommend it. And remember, if you want to pick up anything online today, tomorrow, next week, next month, if you'll just start your shopping at tspaz.com, T-S-P-A-Z, tspaz.com. No matter what you buy, you'll help us out. Plus, you can find all the stuff that I've reviewed. I haven't really seen any questions coming in today, but I'm opening it up now before we close. I've got a comment here from Richard. He says, I am sharing this with my family, friends, and blog subscribers. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Richard. I really hope that happens a lot with this episode, because this is so powerful. This is beyond what we ever really thought GPT can do. And dare I say, we're finding things that Jeff, who created the formula, isn't, because he's not figuring out how to cook oyster mushrooms. He's not developing a personalized learning plan for his kids with this formula. So I haven't got to the part in the book where he's doing it yet. This is a formula that then it's like a hydra that branches out, and you can customize it in many different ways, including building custom AI units, custom AI agents. I talk about GPT because it's what I use. I bet Gemini has the same feature. I bet Claude has the same feature, etc. I bet every unit either has or will have this feature eventually. 229 Mick has a question. Is the AI-driven leader a good starting point? Meaning, if one has used AI as a search replacement and nothing more so far, will this help me make sense of it? If not, do you have a recommendation? I think it's an excellent on-ramp. I even put that into the article that it's a good on-ramp. And this is why. If you come into the use of AI with this formula, you may sprint right past people that have been playing with it for a year, because the formula is the key to unlocking the answers that you really need. In fact, this is the issue, particularly for most people. You go to Google and you're looking for a hotel because you're going to come visit me and you're going to stay in Fort Worth, but you don't want to stay at my house because my dogs will bite you or whatever reason you have. And so you will go to Google and you'll say Fort Worth hotels in zip code, whatever. And they give you a list of hotels. And you'll look for a brand that you're, like, oh, Holiday Inn Express. I like that. Oh, there's one. Okay, I'll get that. That's how we use Google, right? What is the melting temperature of ice in degrees Kelvin, right? Like, or whatever you come, like we stick in a question and we want an answer, and we actually sometimes we'll just get an answer, but mostly we're going to get us a list of websites, and then we have to weed through and find the information. So you go to something like a GPT and you ask that question, and it says there are 5 hotels in that zip code that meet your criteria. They are boom, 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 boom. Here's their rates. It looks a lot like Google. But if you wanted to use GPT right, you would tell it like what time you want to check in, when you want to check out. Do you want a bar in the hotel? Do you not care about a bar? Do you want one that has a breakfast? right? Does it need to have a meeting room, a fitness room, whatever? Like you can put in everything you want and it will say, this is the ideal hotel for you. So instead of doing that, we're doing what we did with Google for 20 years, 25 years now. And because we get to a straight answer instead of a list of websites, we feel like we're getting what we're supposed to get out of it. And then what'll end up happening is you get an answer you don't like, and you'll say, damn, this thing doesn't work, right? Or you give it a math problem and you know it, you don't even know the answer, but you know that ain't it. So damn, this thing doesn't work. This is a tool. It works best when the operator is skilled at using the tool. This book is an operator's manual for one of the most fundamental functions of the tool. And from there, you can branch off into other things. I want to give you some doses of reality on why I think this is a good tool. One thing this book will also teach you to do is say, after you've gotten all this information, create a new persona and say, break it. Find the flaws in it. Tell me the risks to my organization if we employ this policy. And then you create another persona and go, this is the suggestions by one expert. This is the risk by a risk assessment expert. You're a mitigation expert. How do I mitigate the risk to get the strength from one and address the concerns of the other? You can do that with a personalized learning plan. You can also do that with, they say I need this repair and you said I don't really need it, but probably should be done. What are my risks and how I mitigate them? You see what I'm saying? Like it's the same formula, but now we start asking different things of it. What is the broken part? What is the risk? What am I missing? If it's a business thing and you have your business plan, one of the things you should be asking, and Jeff says this in the book, what are 10 non-obvious business opportunities for this entity in this sector today and in the next 5 years that I should know about, but I probably don't? Ask me 5 qualifying questions, one at a time, before you perform this task. It's easy, but it also takes dedication to learn. It takes dedication to take the time. Think about how long that initial prompt was I wrote for the chef question about oyster mushrooms and how I limited it down. And this is where, if you want to get really good with this, and I've been telling my students this, you have to treat GPT or whoever, right? You have to treat it like an employee. You're the freaking boss. It's not in charge. Anything it says can be wrong. You need to accept that. It will make things up. It will be wrong. If it's right 80% of the time, but it's covering things that 90% you would have never even looked at, that's more than good enough to use it as a tool. And you'll get better at it as you go. So yes, it's a great starting point. In fact, it's now that I know it exists, it is exactly where I would recommend most people start is this book. If I had written a book that was better, I'd recommend it. And I do think my book might be better for some things, but not for this. And with that, if you haven't picked up a copy of Laws of Life yet, you might want to do so. I'd say those two together for a young person might really transform somebody into the next captain of industry. With that, guys, I appreciate you guys being here today. Thanks for turning up. And I hope you got a lot out of it. Go out there and use these tools. And I would love to hear from you what your results have been. I'll catch you tomorrow with an interview. We have a special one tomorrow. Chris Rossini from the Ron Paul Liberty Report, who's part of the expert panel, will be here tomorrow for an interview as part of the Meet Your Expert panel series. Take care, guys. I'll catch you tomorrow.